Community, welcome back to another episode of the Dig the Mining podcast. And today's guest is Alfred Baku, who's the Executive Vice President and Head of West Africa for Goldfields. Those that don't know, Goldfields are a globally diverse gold producer with a focus on mechanized underground and open pit mining. They are currently the world's 7th largest gold producer and have 9 operating mines in Australia, Peru, Ghana, and South Africa. Alfred is a mine engineer by background and has a wealth of mining experience, having worked in Australia before taking the helm at Goldfields nearly 14 years ago. So that's welcome Alfred onto the podcast, and let's hear his story. How are you doing, Alfred?
Very well, thanks. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing well here in the UK. So appreciate if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, so the audience knows a little bit more about you. You might want to tell the audience something that they don't already know about you. So if you can give us a little bit about your career from when you started as a mine engineer through to current day.
Thank you very much. And Rob, thanks for having me. Yeah, so as you said, my name is Alfred Baku. I'm a Ghanaian. And I actually graduated in Ghana, University of Mines and Technology. And I had my BSc in 1994, and then MSc in 1996, all in mining engineering. So I actually started working for Billiton at Bogoso in Ghana here. So I worked as a graduate engineer, straight from school, learning through all the different departments or sections of the mine. So I spent about 3.5 years with Billiton. So from Billiton, I actually joined an Australian company called Ranger Minerals as a mine, I would say mine superintendent or open pit. But before actually getting into Billiton, I did my underground time or underground period at Ashanti Goldfields, which is now Anglo Gold Ashanti at Obuasi. So that's where I did my underground time. So from Billiton, I joined Ranger Minerals, also in Ghana. But whilst with Ranger Minerals, I got the opportunity to spend some time in Australia with Ranger Minerals. And I spent about 3.5 years again, so it seems like 3.5 years has been the right time to move on. So what happened was Goldfields were already in Ghana, and they had a mine called Takwa Gold Mine, and they took over from Ranger Minerals. So when they took over from Ranger Minerals, that was in 2002. I was then with Ranger. So they laid off the entire staff and recalled some few members. So I was one of the lucky ones to be recalled. So I joined Goldfields as the mining manager. So I went through the ranks, spent some time in Australia, also getting exposure in different ways of actually doing the same business. So spent some time in Australia and then got back to Ghana. So when I got back, I was actually promoted from mining manager to operations manager, and then from there to the general manager of the Dama mine. So I spent about 18 months as a general manager there. And then I was transferred or moved across to Takwa mine. Takwa is, in fact, our flagship mine within the group, Goldfields. So I spent about another 18 to 2 years. And then I got promoted to be the vice president in charge of the Goldfields operations within the West Africa region. So here again, I spent about, I would say, 2 to 3 years. And then I was promoted to the executive vice president level, which is where I've been up until this morning. So I'm the Executive Vice President and Head of the Goldfields West Africa region. And we actually, in terms of production, we contribute about 36 to 37% of the Goldfields Group's production. And we've got, I would say, 2.5 operations or mines. We've got the Dama mine, we've got the Takwa mine, and we've got a joint venture with Ghanian, which is the Asanko gold mine, 50-50 joint venture. So that's about me.
Yeah. You obviously mentioned that you worked in Australia. How did you find that? And first of all, how did you get that opportunity?
Very well. Actually, when I was the mining manager at Daman, the general manager walked to my office one afternoon and said to me that they have looked at the high flyers within the organization, and I happen to be one of the lucky ones. And therefore, as part of my development journey, they would like to actually second me to Australia to spend time on the various operations, both underground and open pit, to give me that broader and international exposure as well. And then also to learn their culture. At the end of the day, mining itself is not different from wherever you find yourself in the world, but the culture will be slightly different. So that is how it's all started, and I was moved to Australia.
Okay, so basically it was because you've obviously put in a lot of hard work previously, done well in your company, which then obviously you got recognized to then have that opportunity to move to Australia. How different would you say operation and doing mining in Australia is different to Ghana? I know you said mining is pretty much the same. What were the major differences that you can see now from working in Australia to say working in Ghana?
To be honest with you, in terms of the actual mining itself, the practices that exist in Australia are not very different from in Ghana. The few things that I saw in Australia compared to Ghana is their culture of work. If I say culture of work, is that, in Goldfields, safety is our number one value. And we say if we cannot do it safely, we will not do it at all. The difference in Australia is when it comes to duty of care, they are higher up there. In Ghana, the culture is such that if you are you are older than me by age, or you are from a royal family, in Ghana, it's difficult for me to approach you, Rob, and say, oh, Rob, you are doing something that is not right. It's by virtue of you being from a royal family or you being older by age than me, I find it difficult with our culture to approach you. But it's totally, totally different in Australia, which I find quite fascinating. And it's something that I brought back from Australia in terms of if even you are the general manager of the mine and you are doing something that is not safe, you are doing something that is not right, even the junior guy can walk to you and say, Rob, you are doing something wrong, please stop. That is something that I saw quite different from the way we operate in Ghana.
Okay. So I wonder if you can give us an overview of Goldfields. And obviously you've been with the company for a while now and obviously risen up the ranks. Wonder if you can tell us about Goldfields and what you've done to make it a success.
Very well. So as you rightly said, Goldfields is a global company and we operate in 4 different regions. We are in Australia, we are in South America, South Africa, and then, of course, my region, the West Africa region. And we are number 7 in the world at the moment. Our production is about 2.2 million tons per annum. And as I said, Goldfields, West Africa region, we contribute about 37% of that production. And we, in Australia, we have got about 4 operations. In my region, we've got 2.5. And then in South America, we have an operating mine in Peru, Cerro Corona called. And then in South Africa, we have an underground mine as well. And in South America, we have just started a new development of operation in Chile, Salares Norte. We're just going through development or construction phase as we speak. So coming back to our region, we have got 2.5 mines, Dama Mine, Takwa Mine, and then the joint venture with Ghanian operations. With the Takwa Mine, Takwa is actually the flagship of the Goldfields group, where we actually produce the largest within the group, about 500,000 ounces. And it's quite a low-grade mine, but it's quite a steady state mine where we actually have to up our game in terms of efficiency and productivity to be able to still make money with such a low grade, 1.25 grams per ton, compared to Australia's 7-8 grams per ton. So you can see that there's a huge difference there. And the Daman mine is also got quite a fascinating story. About 5 years ago, we were actually contemplating bringing the mine to a close because we had actually exhausted the economic life of the operation. So when I took over as the executive vice president, I set up a team, and then we said, okay, let's see what we can come up with in terms of life beyond at the time, the mine's life. So we were able to come up with what we call the reinvestment project, and that reinvestment project required that we actually push back the existing pit, strip a lot of waste, and get to the bottom of the ore body. That required us to spend about 350, 360 million capital. And if you add that to your operating, you're talking about $1 billion or $1.5 billion. So we went to the board, we got approval by the board to actually embark on the reinvestment journey. And I'm pleased to say that 4 years down the line, the project is still progressing very well. We are ahead of production, we are ahead of schedule, and we're doing fantastic. And the mine is doing very, very well. At Takwa, we have got what I call the organic growth opportunities that we can actually extend the life of the operation. 2 years ago, we were able to replace our ore reserve depletion. Last year, we have managed to replace again. So the mine is doing very well. INT is something that we embrace so well because that is the order of the day as we speak, because we want to modernize our operations. So across the Goldfields group, we embrace INT quite a lot to be able to improve our safety, to be able to improve our efficiency and productivity, to be able to reduce our costs and actually stay in business.
Okay. Is there anything that you've improved, would you say, in terms of across the operations that you're looking after, that has made a big difference?
Yes, I would say that since I joined as the executive vice president and head of the operation, we have done a lot of strategic things. And the biggest one is we've managed to actually reduce our all-in cost by about 20 to 25%, about $300 per ounce. We have been able to. What are the areas that we looked at? We were able to actually secure a development agreement with the Ghana government. And development agreement It's something that Goldfields, we tried for about 10, 12 years. We were not successful. But when I took over, we managed to secure that. And that was a game changer for us. And development agreement, what it does is your fiscal regime and terms are actually set up or defined for you. So you'll be able to project into the future very well, as compared to you don't have any fiscal terms defined, and the government can get up any day, any time, and change things, which brings you all the way back to the drawing board. So we're able to secure that, and that helped us a lot. The other one that we've managed to do under my leadership is that if you look at the power situation in the country, it was quite hectic for us, and it wasn't stable at all. So we were relying on the national grid, and our availability was quite low. So what we did was we put a team together, and under my leadership, we were able to actually come off the national grid. And we set up an IPP to help us with our power. So I must say that since we moved off the national grid, our power supply has been quite consistent, and our mill performance has been fantastic. So it's really helping us in terms of production. So that is something we have done. The other one that we've also done is, in terms of safety, we believe that we can actually have a zero harm sort of mentality. So that is something that we put into our people's mind, to say that when you walk from home to the workplace, just make sure that you can go back home safely without getting yourself injured. What are some of the things that we did? We did a host of them. One of them is what we call the top 5 or take 5. What that means is, before you start any piece of work, you have to assess the risks. You have to come up with the mitigation. You have to do a host of things before you actually start work. So on safety side, we were able to also come up with a host of things that will be able to help our workforce. And the latest one that we are actually doing is what we call the courageous safety leadership. What courageous safety leadership does is that it actually empowers everyone on the operation to actually be a leader when it comes to safety. As I said earlier, the Ghanaian culture is such that if someone is in a higher position, it's difficult for you at a junior level to go and say, hey, Alfred, you are doing something wrong. So this courageous safety leadership is all about empowering everyone on the mine to be able to be a leader when it comes to safety. The other one that we've also managed to do, which has actually changed this region in terms of value from the market, in terms of everything, is that we have actually emphasized on exploration, how we can actually extend the life of the operations. And as we speak now, 2 years down the lane, we have been able to replace our depletion back to back at Tapa Mine. And that is one of the reasons why we entered into a joint venture agreement with Ghanian, because our strategy, our vision is to grow the region. And you can only grow the region through reducing your costs to get more into your reserve, through exploration activities. So these are some of the things that we are doing to be able, or we have done, to be able to change the landscape of our region. The other one that we've also done on the back of COVID is what we call the flexible roster, where we can work remotely. As we speak now, I'm actually having this conversation with you from home. So flexible roster is something that we've introduced. And in terms of our people is everything. And therefore, we emphasize a lot on our people. So this is something that we've also done in terms of improving our efficiency, improving our productivity. So we've done a lot of things to change the landscape of the region.
Yeah, certainly. And there's quite a few major changes that you made there over the few years, and obviously making those big changes is a risk when you're making them, but obviously all of them are paid off. And yeah, I congratulate you on obviously that success. Um, how has Goldfields Ghana managed its obviously operations to ensure obviously the safety of employees obviously during COVID? Obviously, you mentioned about flexible work arrangements and rosters. What else have you implemented during obviously this whole period, and which you probably will continue with?
Very well. So since we had the COVID in Ghana way back March last year, what we did was to actually put together some initiatives and interventions at our operations, and then also our host communities. We have spent about 2.3 million US dollars to help our operations, and then also to help the host communities, and also to assist the government in the fight against the COVID-19. So if you look at some of the things or the measures that we've actually implemented, screening all our employees, and then also essential visitors. One of the things, Rob, we did was we actually limited the number of visitors to our operations because of the COVID-19. So before you get onto the operation as an essential visitor, we screen you. And then we also did mass testing of our employees to know their status, to make sure that we don't have surprises. So we did that as well. Mandatory wearing of face masks is mandatory. It's not a given. You cannot afford to be on the mine without a face mask. We also provided hand washing facilities, and then also hand sanitizers to all the employees, and then also the facilities, the hand washing facilities, advantage positions. In terms of strict social distancing protocols, it's something that we actually enforced, and even within the pits, we made sure that if only you are required to go to the pit, that is when you go to the pit. And then, of course, the flexible work schedule and working from home is something that we also instituted as well.
Yeah, with the rosters, have you extended the rosters? Obviously, days on, days off, and if so, have you had any challenges from staff? I mean, have a lot of the staff agreed with it? Has there been any complications? What are your overview thoughts on extension of rosters? Because I see a lot of companies extending those rosters, and it may work for some people, but then again, it may not work for different people. So I just wondered what your thoughts are around that, and how people have reacted to that.
No, Rob, we also did change the roster, and then we had, it's a human nature. Whenever you institute some change, you always have some group of people actually being a bit uncomfortable, because some people are not used to change so quickly. So we had some initial teething, I would say, problems, but it's behind us now. So yeah, we extended the rosters for some of the sections or departments to make sure that we can actually have the social distancing, as I said, and then also to make sure that we don't have a lot of actually people on the buses at any given time. So we had some people were not too comfortable with the change, but that is normal. That's a human nature. So, but I would say that it's all back to normal now. And the fact that last year we were able to deliver on our budget without any hitches, although we pick up some few cases, speaks volume that we have been able to get all our people aligned now.
Yeah. And in your view, what would you say the future of mining looks like? And I suppose you could look at it globally, but also from a point of Ghana and maybe Africa. And how do you think technology is sort of influencing the future of mining?
Very good question. Yeah. So you see, Rob, the mine of the future we've modernized and integrated with the use of smart technologies. That is a given. And it will rely heavily on automation at every level, from autonomous data acquisition and analytics via real-time sensors to remote operated and fully autonomous equipment. Automation and digitization will help mining companies, one, to improve on safety, because once you are able to actually get your operation in this autonomous sort of region, you are able to improve your safety with the adoption of technologies such as collision avoidance and fatigue management system. Rob, what we've done with safety is that we have installed what we call the collision avoidance system, where you are able to take the human beings from the equipment. The guys sitting right at the top of the dump trucks, they see you as a human being quite tiny. So with collision avoidance system, we are able to actually make sure that people are not having this interaction with the heavy equipment. Through technology and then also through digitization and automation, we are able to, number two, optimize efficiency. With the adoption of technology such as auto drilling and high precision GPS, whole navigation system on the drill rigs, which have also implemented enhance our operational efficiency. Because you see, Rob, in drilling, you need to make sure that you get the drilling, your depth, your inclination, your depth, everything right. If you are able to get all that right, it helps with your efficiency. So we've been able to also do that. With technology, the third one is to improve sustainable practices using renewable energy, using water recycling, and community economic inclusion of all our Goldfields Ghana activities. With technology, we are able to reduce our carbon footprint. With technology, we are able to maintain our social license to operate through our sustainable practices. So Goldfields, we are working towards modernizing our mines based on current trends in most of the modern mines around the world. We expect to actually automate and digitize our operations over the next few years by adopting new sources of power, remote operations of equipment, environmental monitoring using real-time monitoring technology, integrated operating centers. Yeah.
Yeah. So with obviously yourselves implementing over time a lot of automation and digitalization, I suppose a lot of people, and I suppose it affects not just the mining industry, but other industries. A lot of people think that by introducing a lot of automation, a lot of digital, everything sort of being automated, i.e. computers taking over people's jobs. Do you see that as that happening within the mining industry and perhaps happening in Africa or even with Goldfields? Do you see that happening, or do you see certain jobs being taken over by automation, but at the same time you need people to work those automation systems, so you would use different people, so it doesn't reduce the numbers of people, it's just people's jobs will change. How do you see that happening?
Rob, that's how I see it. That actually is going to actually require us to upskill our people. You're not necessarily going to just lose jobs, but you're going to upskill a lot of the people. But Rob, the reality is that you may not be able to actually upskill 100% of the workforce because of the different levels of education that you have on the mind. But you're right. A lot of people, the first thing that comes to mind is when they hear INT or technology, they say, oh, we are going to lose our jobs. So it comes down to, Rob, education, educating our stakeholders, the union, the government, and then also the host community as well. That you're not necessarily going to lay people off, but the onus is on us to upskill our workforce to be able to actually take different tasks in technological advancement area. So that is how I see it, but it requires us to educate, as I said, a lot of our stakeholders to actually understand what we're trying to do. Because without their buy-in, it's going to always be difficult for us to actually move forward with technology. But we are not going to be laying people off. We're just going to upskill the people to be able to take different jobs.
Yeah. So with, for instance, and this is, I suppose, not just with Goldfields, but I suppose maybe even across Africa and even other parts of the world, if people have a lower educational level, do you think it's in their own best interest, apart from the companies, but in their own interest to sort of upskill themselves by learning a few different skills, maybe in their own time, rather than just relying on companies to provide that education? Do you feel that it's good and in people's interest with those lower levels of education that they should go out in their own time to upskill themselves in certain areas?
Absolutely, and that's part of the education that we give our workforce, education that we give the union leadership, education that we give the host community, that they should make the effort, as you said, on their own to educate themselves. Because at the end of the day, you want to always keep your job. And one way of doing that is to make sure that you are not left behind. So in as much as the company is willing to spend time and money in upskilling, it's always better to be a step ahead on your own to upskill yourself, so that when it comes to the selection, you are always going to be there and you can meet the criteria in a technological environment.
Yeah, and I suppose it's like anything in life. I think life is a continual education, and I think no matter what industry you're in, you should always look to educate yourself, even if it's something just slightly outside of what you do on a day-to-day basis. That continuous education in various other things just increases your whole level of education. And some things are transferable. You can learn something in another subject and transfer it into mining, perhaps. So I think anyone that's listening that may only have a certain level of education, I think you still need to look at other areas where you can sort of increase your level of education, and that applies to anyone across the world and at any level, because you can always go to a higher level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How has sort of the obviously COVID pandemic, how's that accelerated your minds, or obviously Goldfields, how's that accelerated the transition into new technologies?
Very well, Rob. So you see, key new technologies have actually flourished during the pandemic, and testing and adoption of essential technologies to telecommunicate to share ideas, and to remotely manage teams experienced tremendous acceleration during the past year. So just as new vaccines were developed, tested, and implemented under an incredibly accelerated process, the same phenomenon was seen with the adoption of new technologies that are key to actually communicating, operating, and managing operations remotely. Regarding the mining industry and allied sectors in particular, the pandemic has actually forced an accelerated adaptive process of new technologies that will have actually otherwise taken several years to be fully adopted. Normally, as in any innovation process, we see a slow, adaptive, organic process of the latest technology by the industry. Generally, state-of-the-art technologies are rapidly adopted by small companies willing to risk and try the latest innovations in order to quickly boost their productivity, increase their growth, and then also be competitive against their well-positioned industry. So, Rob, I would say that the pandemic has actually forced major industries like mining to actually take same stand as small companies. And the mining industry have been actually compelled to take risks in terms of adopting new technologies and working protocols, such as working from home, which are normally adopted by small startup companies. So I would say that, yes, the pandemic has actually pushed a lot of things forward from a technology point of view.
Yeah. So what's your general view of mining in Ghana? And what has the industry contributed to the development of the country? And what improvements do you think could be done within the Ghanaian mining industry?
Excellent. So generally in Ghana, we have quite a friendly business climate. And if you look at Ghana, our democracy has also grown quite well. And therefore, we have quite a stable political atmosphere or political environment, if one can put it that way. The mining industry has been operating and coexisting cordially with our host communities and then also with the government. However, there are still challenges and issues with government and other key stakeholders that we try to resolve amicably through the Ghana Chamber of Mines, which is actually the industry body. One major challenge, Rob, that the mining companies have been trying to resolve is illegal mining activities on our legally acquired concessions. Often these illegal miners are members of our host communities, and as such, it is important to tackle the issue appropriately in order not to worsen the matter. The mining industry's contribution to Ghana's economy and infrastructural development is enormous. Rob, if you look at the road between our Takwa mine and Dama mine, it's about 33 kilometers. And Rob, we have actually upgraded that road and we've given it an asphalt surface that is going to last in excess of 20 years. So that is a huge, huge contribution that we have given our host communities. And beyond taxes, beyond royalties, beyond dividends that we actually pay to government, we invest in socio-economic development of the communities within where we operate. And not just infrastructure. We assist in education, we assist in water and sanitation, we assist in a host of things to actually improve the lives of the people who are within our catchment areas. And if you look at Goldfields, apart from all the taxes that we pay, apart from all the royalties and the dividend that we give government, we have also set up what we call the Goldfields Foundation. And this foundation has got a formula. Every ounce of gold that we produce, we set aside $1 and put it into the foundation. And over and above that, 1.5% of our profit before tax is added to the foundation. And since 2004, we have actually invested over $74 million in development projects and programs in our host communities. And as I said, education, health, agri, water and sanitation, and infrastructure.
Yeah, no, that's great work and great to hear. At the end of February, Goldfields released strong results for 2020 with its West African operation posting a production increase of 3% with a net cash flow of 252 million. What contributed to this and how did that sustain momentum?
Absolutely. There is a significant organic growth, as I said earlier, potential that we have within our West Africa region. And if I look at our performance, it's been actually steady and then also consistent. And if you look back 3 to 5 years, we have been very consistent with our production and performance. And the 3% increase, as you mentioned, in production was primarily driven by the continued build up in our production at Daman. As I said, 4 years ago, we had the board approving what we call the Daman Reinvestment Project. And we are picking momentum and the production is beginning to pick up. And that actually helped us in our 3% increase in production. And as expected, Daman had a much improved 2020 second half as it moved into the heart of the main ore body. Our all-in cost actually increased by about 2%, but the region generated net cash flow, if you add Asanko, about $290 million compared to 184 last year. At the end of December, we've got 48 months into the Daman Reinvestment Project. And as we speak, Rob, the tons, we are about 14% ahead of plan. And then the gold produced, we are about 17% ahead of plan. Tapa, we replaced our depletion and slightly added to reserves in 2020 for a second consecutive actually year. Studies on a further cutback at Daman have actually started, so we are actually trying to be ahead of the game, while there is more exploration potential at Tapa, and a 22-kilometer down dip strike potential is being evaluated as we speak.
There's some great results there. So I want to conclude now. So what's the outlook for, I suppose, Goldfields, but Goldfields Ghana? What do you, as a leader, what do you want to sort of happen over the next sort of short to medium term?
Excellent. So my vision is to actually grow this region. And to grow this region, it's not just by quantity or volume, but quality. So we want to grow our production base. We want to be able to optimize our cost. We want to be able to make sure that we have a zero harm mentality instilled in our people to make sure that our safety performance is top notch. And we want to make our region one of the best within the Goldfields group. So I'm very optimistic that we will be able to achieve that. And from where we started and where we are now, I think we have a light at the end of the tunnel for this region. In terms of the group, Goldfields, as I said, Salares Norte, we are busy with the construction. And when we get into full production, Salares Norte is going to be a game changer for the group because it's a low cost operation that is really going to make a difference. South Deep, which is one of the deep level mines in the world, is also turning the corner with all the changes. And then also under the leadership of my colleague, Martin, South Deep is also beginning to actually show some momentum. And Australia has been steady state, and we have a lot of bright future ahead of us. As you are aware, our CEO, Nick Holland, is actually not stepping down per se, but he's going on retirement. And he is finishing with us by the end of this month. And his replacement is already announced, Chris. And Chris is actually known to the mining industry, a very good operator. And we are actually happy to have Chris taking over from Nick Holland, who has done so well for Goldfields over his term as the CEO of this company. So we have a lot of bright story and future ahead of ourselves.
Yes, certainly, and I'll certainly be watching how you develop. And obviously, from past results, obviously the sky's the world, and you've obviously done well in the past, and I think you're continuing achieving your goals and objectives for the company. So, if our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions or wants to find out more about Goldfields, how can they go about doing that? And are you on any social media platforms?
Yeah, my email, as you have it, alfred.baku@goldfields.com. That is my email address. They can also reach me out. They can follow me on LinkedIn. And then also, I'm also on all the various social platform. And of course, my number, I'm sure you have it, plus 233-2474-10274.
Yeah, no worries. All of those details will be in the show notes accompanying this podcast. So really appreciate your time, Alfred. Appreciate you giving our audience your story, telling us about Goldfields, the exciting things that you've done and successes that you've achieved with Goldfields, and may it obviously continue into the future. Hope the audience has enjoyed listening to this, and appreciate if you can pass this episode on to other people that want to know more about Goldfields, mining in Ghana, because I'm sure they'll certainly get something from it. So I really appreciate your time, Alfred. And until next time, happy mining.